Jimmy Vesey comes through in the clutch with two big goals, and the New York Rangers post a big 5-3 road victory against the New Jersey Devils. It's going to be a fun episode. Do not go anywhere.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blueshirts fans, to episode number 943 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube, and we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use promo code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. So what a win. Yet another candidate for best win of the year. You know the season's going pretty well when pretty much after every game you say, oh, that's top 3 wins of the year. That might be the best one of the year. This one went into overtime. That might be the best one of the year. And now, once again, another candidate, the Rangers, going up against a quality opponent, team with which a rivalry has been reignited here over these past couple of seasons. It's always a bit of a chippy matchup and always back and forth. And right when you have a feeling for what's going to happen next in these games or even in the playoff series last year, you have no idea what's coming next. That's just kind of the nature of the beast right now when the Rangers are playing the Devils, but always has a big game feel, always back and forth the entire way. There tend to be a lot of momentum swings, but the Rangers in this case, outlasting the Devils, coming through in the clutch against the Devils, and beating the Devils in the same place where their season ended last year. So obviously a really nice win, really gratifying win. And that's another thing, you know, the players tend to downplay things like that. And I think sometimes even we as fans downplay things like that. You have to believe for these Ranger players that, you know, had the lead in the series against the Devils last year and let it get away. And obviously Game 7 was just a complete disaster. We don't need to get into the details, but for those players that endured that and now play the Devils for the first time since then, this had to be a good feeling, especially doing it on the road. I mean, you're not always sure it's a road game because there are a lot of Ranger fans in there, but be that as it may, once again, an awesome road victory for the Rangers against one of their rivals. And we can't go a second farther without talking about the man of the hour, and that would, of course, be Jimmy Vesey. 2 goals in this game. That includes the game winner, and those were, in fact, just his second and third goals of the season. And from a personal standpoint here, let me just say, when you host a podcast for 900 and whatever episodes this is at this point, you throw enough stuff at the wall sooner or later. You know, a couple of things stick every once in a while. And as a lot of you guys know, anybody that, you know, for the everydayers, anybody that caught the last episode, you know, we did our crossover with Trey Matthews, the host of Locked On Devils. And one of my predictions for this game was that Jimmy Vesey would score a goal. And the day of the game, I was feeling it even more, and I said, you know what, I'm tweeting this out. Let's just see what happens. Let's kind of just speak it into existence. There we go, and just kind of manifest some Jimmy Vesey magic in this game. And somehow, some way, it worked. A lot of you guys were kind of having fun with me on social media. A couple of you guys were kind of on me because I said that Jimmy Vesey would score a goal in this game. And a couple of you were pointing out, hey, you didn't say he would score 2 goals. Technically, you got it wrong. So if that's the case, I've never been more happy to be wrong in my life because Vesey, yeah, coming up clutch, somebody that goes out there and just busts his tail every single night for the New York Rangers. Another note there is that my tweet, when I put that out there, somebody tagged the Flaming Hot Takes Twitter handle. And so for whoever did that, I'm sorry, I didn't see who happened to do that. But thank you, because they actually retweeted me. So now I just have to get on ice cold takes and then everything comes full circle. But, you know, obviously, look, we'll get to Vesey's heroics in a second. We'll break down his goal and then his later goal that won the game. But let's just go back in time here for a minute to just kind of appreciate Jimmy Vesey and the work that he does for this team night in and night out. So let's go back in time a little bit more than a year before training camp, or I guess during training camp last year. Jimmy Vesey's in town with the Rangers on a PTO. And this is somebody that obviously spent time with the Rangers. He was there for 3 years with them at the very start of his career, bounced around, you know, to Buffalo, Toronto, to the Devils. I feel like there's maybe one more team in there that I'm not remembering off the top of my head, but he's bounced around, you know, struggled to find success, struggled to find a home. And then he comes to the Rangers on a PTO, and me, like a lot of you guys, it's like, oh, Jimmy Vesey, PTO, okay, you know, we'll give it a shot here. Let's see what happens. I think a lot of us were probably expecting him to not make the team, but he had a great training camp. He did great in the preseason last year, and he fought his way onto the team. And, you know, obviously, has been a solid player, not a superstar, but somebody that goes out there and gives you an honest effort every single night. He was even in the top 6 for some time last season. He spent a decent amount of time with Mika and Kreider on that top line. I think he's better in the bottom 6 for the most part. But then he signs a 2-year extension worth $800K a year in the middle of last season. And even then, there was some kind of debate among Ranger fans, like, why are you doing this? It's just Jimmy Vesey. Do you really need to commit to this guy long term? And I get that to an extent. It's not the biggest name out there or like a superstar player or anything, but that's just it. The thing is, you have to figure out the bottom part of your roster just as sure as you have to figure out the top part of your roster as well. So that being the case, you got Jimmy Vesey here. He seems to thrive in New York, between his first stint with the Rangers and what he was doing last year. It feels like he plays better hockey with the Rangers than anywhere else. He just seems to thrive in this situation. He seems happy here. And the fact that they were able to seemingly pretty easily hammer out a 2-year extension, that's awesome. And Jimmy Vesey even mentioned that some things are more important than money. He talked about having to be on a PTO the last 2 off seasons, not even sure if he's going to be in the NHL. So to ink that deal and find at least some long-term stability. It's not a massively long contract, but he had the second half of last year and now this year and the year ahead, he'll be a Ranger for all of that, barring something unexpected. Very cool that they were able to do that. And while we're talking about this, why not extend Jimmy Vesey right now? Just tack another year onto the end of his contract. I would have no issues with that whatsoever. Jimmy Vesey just turned 30. The things that he does well for this team, they should age just fine. And if you want to tack on, he's a free agent after next year. So if you want to tack on another year to his contract at say $1 million, he gets a little bit of a raise. Sign me up for that because I really like his game. Again, not a superstar player, but just somebody that plays with a lot of grit and busts his butt every single night, every single shift. You need players like that. And it was awesome to see him get rewarded in the form of a couple of goals in this game. So, yeah, I mean, if an extension comes up for Vesey, you don't really think of it because he's not a free agent after this year, but I'd be on board for that, obviously provided they don't go overboard with it. But Vesey's been a really solid player for this team. And now to finally go to his highlights from this game. So he actually had a chance to score in the first period before he actually did score in the first period. But basically, he went up the right side. Rangers were quick in transition here. He goes up the right side, 2-on-1 for the Rangers. And instead of passing, he opts to shoot. And it took a really nice skate save by Vanacek. He kicked out his right pad, made a save with what looked like his skate, and kept the puck out of the net. But I was thinking, oh, man, there it was. Vesey had his chance there, and it might not happen now. But no, he was very noticeable, obviously, for the rest of this game as well. He scores his first goal in the first period. You've got Zach Jones passing across the blue line to Braden Schneider. Schneider to Pitlick. Pitlick received the pass kind of moving away from the Devils net and toward the Ranger blue line, but he very quickly got it right back over there to Zach Jones on the left side. Jones then passes across the ice to the top of the right circle to Braden Schneider. Schneider moves a little bit toward the net, shoots from right around the dot. The save is made, but the puck's laying there. Vesey's able to knock it home and give the Rangers a 2-1 lead at that point in the game. So big goal there for Vesey. And then the second goal that Vesey scores, this one's obviously the bigger one of the two. I mean, they're both big, but this is the game winner. So you got Zach Jones intercepting a pass in the Ranger zone, stayed very patient with the puck because he didn't have too much pressure and he was kind of surveying the ice, wanted to see where he was going to go with it. Passes to his left and up the ice into the neutral zone to lead Vincent Trocheck along his way. Now, Trocheck, he's not really moving with a lot of speed, and I think that was by design because the Rangers were in the middle of a change, and he realized, if I hit the Jets, I'm just going to basically run into a wall, and I don't have anybody to pass to or anything. So Trocheck kind of took his time here, went to his right, and then finally went over the blue line, kind of toward the center of the ice. And then at that point, he leaves a drop pass to, who was it here? He leaves a drop pass for Vesey. Vesey picks it up. He moves ahead, slides a really short pass to his right to Tyler Pitlick. Pitlick toward the net. He takes a shot. The save is made, but there's Jimmy Vesey finding the rebound and kind of spinning and backhanding it into the net all in one motion. That put the Rangers up 4-3 with 2:49 to go. You get Blake Wheeler adding an empty netter down the stretch, and the Rangers go up 5-3, and that was indeed the final score. But as far as why I picked Jimmy Vesey here, because a lot of people were kind of fixated on this, so we got to have some fun with it here. For starters, I just thought he was due. Again, he's not an offensive juggernaut or anything along those lines, but the bottom line is this guy plays hard. I feel like, if the hockey gods are really paying attention, this guy could use a goal. He's probably overdue for one. And I don't know, you're playing the Devils, bit of a gritty game anyway. He could come up with a gritty goal, or I guess even 2 gritty goals, because that's basically what he did here. But yeah, Vesey, again, he's somebody that just busts his tail every single night, every single shift, as much or more, I think, than anybody on this team. And another reason why he kind of stood out, he played well against the Devils last year, and I'm including the playoff series in that. Some of those games in that playoff series where the Rangers were kind of flat, VT was still out there. He was working really hard, grinding hard, skating hard, the whole 9 yards. And he's just a noticeable player when the Rangers play the Devils. It was true in the regular season last year, too. He got into a fight or two. I also kind of wonder if, Vesey is not so happy that the Devils didn't seem to have any real interest in bringing him back after he spent a season there, because my understanding is that he played basically the same style of game with the Devils as he's played with the Rangers. And if that's the case, and you can have this guy for 6 figures, I don't know why you wouldn't necessarily want to do it. I mean, that's obviously ancient history at this point, and I'm glad the Devils passed on trying to bring Vesey back, because he's back with the Rangers now and feels like he's home. That's the other thing, and we were talking about that earlier. It just feels like this guy, Jimmy Vesey, he's a New York Ranger. Went to a bunch of other places, nothing really stuck, but he's an important part of this team, and it's just cool to see him, coming up big for this team here. And the other thing that I'll mention here, former Hobie Baker award winner, and, long time ago, completely different level of hockey. I get all that. But when you're putting up the kind of points that he did in college, that doesn't just completely evaporate. That's still in there somewhere. And every now and then, I think it does come out for Jimmy Vesey. So we're going to have some more fun with this a little bit later in today's episode. I'm going to tell you who I have, another dark horse to score a goal on Monday against the Dallas Stars. Take it with a grain of salt. Don't go betting your life savings on it or anything like that. But we got to have some fun with this. I have a name in mind, somebody that I think is going to score a goal in the Rangers next game against the Stars. But we'll get to all that in due time here. We're also going to talk about Igor Shesterkin being back in the lineup and going out there and killing it for the Rangers. What else is new? We'll get to all that fun stuff in just a second. But first, definitely want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. What brings home the winning trophy is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. From superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has got you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at all the prices you want, it's easy to turn your car into the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, we just want to go ahead and thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. Show is free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. All right, so we're going to turn our attention to Igor Shesterkin here, obviously making his grand return to the Rangers. One more thing I want to point out real quick, though, in all the Vesey chaos and everything that was going on there. Let's also give some props to Tyler Pitlick. Pitlick is somebody that came in. I think a lot of us were maybe a little upset that the Rangers seemed to be favoring him over Vesey as the 12th forward to start the season. But for me, Pitlick, Vesey's still my choice, but Pitlick's one of those guys as a 12th or 13th forward. I think he's fine. He doesn't do anything spectacular out there, but I do think he's a hardworking player. We've seen him lay some pretty good hits in this season. And on both of Vesey's goals, Pitlick was right there in the middle of it. He got the primary on the second one. The first one, I don't think he got credited with an assist, but there was a lot of passing going on, and he was in the middle of that as well. So props to Tyler Pitlick. Again, you're playing a team like the Devils, big rivalry matchup, two really good teams. You need everybody pulling in the same direction. And hockey, more so than any other sport, you need your whole roster contributing in one way or another. And nice to see Tyler Pitlick able to do that in this game. But let's go ahead, talk about Igor Shesterkin. Once again, he's back for the first time since November 2nd. And obviously nice to see him back. He goes up against Vitek Vanacek. And I have to give Trey Matthews some credit. Trey from Locked On Devils. I thought the Devils would go with Schmidt. I really did, just based on how that playoff series went last year. And I still maintain that, Schmidt was good in that series. I don't think he was otherworldly the way people were acting, but he did better than Vanacek against the Rangers. So I thought he'd be the guy, but they go with Vanacek, and Vanacek made some really nice saves in this game, if we're being completely fair here. But Igor was awesome, stops 30 of 33 shots. Now, of course, did get off to a little bit of a shaky start, 2 goals that I think typically he does not allow, especially this first one. So we'll get to the controversy surrounding this first Devils goal in a little bit here. Right now, we're just going to look at the play itself. But basically, you got Jack Hughes taking a shot. Igor squares it up, seems to freeze the puck. It's in his pad somewhere. Next thing you know, the puck is on its side and rolling ever so slowly into the net. And they have a big debate, and naturally it goes against the Rangers, and the goal counts, and it's 1-1 at that point. But like I said, we'll get to the controversial aspects of that in just a second. Right now, we're talking about Igor. The second goal that he allowed, again, a little bit on the soft side. You had Palat shooting from the high slot. So, decent scoring real estate for Palat on this. Guys can score from that area of the rink, obviously. There was some traffic in front. Maybe Igor didn't get a good look at it. Maybe he was anticipating a deflection that just never happened. But regardless, was not able to prevent the puck from getting by him, despite getting a pretty good piece of it. So unfortunate to see that happen, but nice that the Rangers, Igor saved their bacon enough times. Nice that the Rangers could score a bunch of goals in this game and pick him up a little bit, because from this point on, Igor was basically lights out, awesome. Some of his biggest saves in this game, and this to me is what's most impressive, because you're talking about somebody that's been cold. I mean, he hasn't played in a while. It's been about 3 weeks or so. What's today's date here? It is 19. So he played last night. So that would have been 16 games between, action for Igor Shesterkin. So for him to come up big after the Devils take the lead early in the third period, the Devils go up 3-2. The Devils had multiple chances to increase their lead and run it up to 4-2. And at that point, as a Ranger fan, look, you don't give up. I mean, they're down by 2 goals. That's doable. You can come back from that. But it's obviously a much bigger challenge. The fact that Igor was able to make some of his best saves in this game when the Rangers needed him the most, that's awesome. And that's what he was doing before he got injured. So that was great to see. A couple of examples to highlight real quick here. Again, this is all while the Devils are up 3-2. You had Toffoli with a chance on the rush, and Igor Shesterkin made a great point-blank save against him after Toffoli had received a pass. On another save that he made, you had Jesper Bratt stealing the puck from Alexis Lafreniere. This is at the tail end of a Ranger power play. Bratt went in on a breakaway, and he's very fast and a very good skater and a good puck handler as well. So this is not the guy that you want on a breakaway if you're the opposing team. And, Igor made the save, and then the puck kind of hopped into the air, and Bratt tried to basically bat it into the net, and he got a piece of it, but Igor stopped it again. So those 2 saves there, well, really 3 saves there that Igor made in that sequence while the Devils are up 3-2. The importance of that cannot possibly be understated, because if Igor doesn't come up with all those saves, again, the Rangers go down by even more. And I mean, you've still got a shot, but now it's 4-2. The Devils have scored 3 in a row. It's the third period. It's starting to get late. It's not going to be easy at that point. So big time saves by Igor Shesterkin there. And really, he was awesome the entire night, other than those 2 goals that he let in. And I'm not even so sure one of them should have counted, but we'll get to that in just a second. First, though, we definitely want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Sleeper. A new NHL season brings all sorts of possibilities. Artemi Panarin could score 50 goals. The New York Rangers could hoist the Stanley Cup, and you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our #1 choice for daily fantasy sports, and especially daily fantasy hockey, because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Panarin or Mika Zibanejad or Igor Shesterkin or Jimmy Vesey will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus minus, or more in a given game. To win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8-player stats. You heard me, Ranger fans. You can win 100 times your money playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here. Fun episode so far. You knock off your rival, you win a game that's back and forth, a seesaw battle the entire way, and your team is 12-2-1. It's always fun to do these shows, and hopefully you guys are just enjoying the ride so far for the Rangers. And yeah, it's still kind of early, but we're already approaching the quarter point of the season here, and Rangers are obviously off to a heck of a start. But let's go ahead and talk about Toronto and the Situation Room and everything that was going on in this game. I'm not somebody. The NHL is pulling this out of me because I'm not somebody in any sport. I swear this is true. I'm not somebody that constantly says that's the refs' fault. The refs are screwing us. The refs did this. The refs did that. The only reason my team lost is because of the refs. The refs. The refs. The refs. There's people out there, whether they're Ranger fans or fans of any other hockey team or fans of this team or that team in any other sport. There are fans out there that legitimately believe their team has just never lost fair and square. Anytime they lose, always has to be the Zebras, always has to be the refs, always has to be a conspiracy theory. I'm not like that at all, but the NHL is slowly but surely kind of pulling this out of me. You can probably see it in my eyes right now if you're watching on YouTube, because I just don't even know what to say about this stuff anymore. There is zero consistency with any of these reviews. It feels like they're just flying by the seat of their pants every single time that the review happens. And another thing too, when the ref goes out there and explains what happened, maybe it's just me. I rarely catch what the ref is saying. They talk very fast. It's just like good goal, and I'm like, what just happened? What was he talking about? What is the explanation here? Maybe I'm the only one that feels that way, but I don't even understand the explanation half the time. Like I literally can't understand what they're saying. But regardless, anytime something happens in the game, there's a review, the refs skate over there, they put on their headphones, and they talk to their overlords in Toronto. You know that bad news is coming to the New York Rangers. And there was an episode not too long ago where I asked you guys, I think it was last week, I asked you guys, like, okay, somebody please tell me when the last time is that a goal was reviewed, or really anything was reviewed, and they go over there and they talk to Toronto, and they come back, and it's good news for the Rangers, whether it's a play being overturned or a play being upheld or a play being confirmed or a call standing, whatever verbiage they want to use. When is the last time that it's gone in the Ranger favor? And a couple of you guys pointed out that earlier this season, there was a review that went in the Rangers' favor. I want to say the Rangers were playing the Jackets, but there was a play. It was early in the season. There was a play where the puck almost went into the Ranger net, and Trouba was there, and Trouba reached out, full extension with his stick and got his stick on the puck when the puck was still on the line, and then just kind of swept it away from the net. And the ref initially, blew the whistle and pointed for the goal and everything. And the initial call on the ice was a good goal. When they reviewed it, it got overturned. But I'm not even counting that one because that one was like so literal. Like you could show that play to 1,000 different hockey fans that are impartial. No Ranger fans, and I think they were playing the Blue Jackets. No Blue Jackets fans. Just show it to 1,000 random hockey fans. All 1,000 of them are going to tell you that is not a goal. So they had no choice but to overturn that one in the Ranger favor. So you know what? That one doesn't even count. Any other time, if there's the smallest little sliver of gray, the smallest little shade of gray in any call, whether it's an illegal hit, whether it's a goal being scored, a goal being stopped before it crossed the net, whatever's being reviewed, it will go against the Rangers. That's how it's been going. I feel like it all started with a few years ago in the playoffs. This is when it was really noticeable. I mean, first of all, that Ranger-Penguins series, the Penguins for the first 4 games of that got every single call going their way. But the one that was really bad is the end of game 1. The game's tied. You get Kakko driving to the net. Dumoulin shoves him from behind right into Casey DeSmith. Kakko did everything he could to avoid contact. Kakko slides across the ice on his stomach, passes back with a backhand pass to Philip Hedl. Hedl buries it. They overturn it. And I was livid. Obviously, it's a huge moment in a playoff game, but it was also a big moment for Kakko and Hedl. They both really needed that moment at that time because they had both scuffled a little bit that season. And that should have been a goal, and it wasn't. But as far as this game is concerned, so let's go back to the goal we already discussed. The first goal that the Devils were credited with in this game, it came courtesy of Jack Hughes. He shoots from along the boards. Igor seems like he catches it clean, and it's in his pad somewhere, and you're gonna get the whistle. Instead, puck drops to the ice, rolls into the net. Now, if you look at this, take everything off the table in terms of when the whistle blew and all that kind of stuff. If you just look at this very literally, I think you gotta say that should be a good goal because I don't think Igor ever had it long enough that okay, the puck's frozen, it should be blown dead kind of thing. So in that sense, yeah, probably makes most sense for it to be a good goal. But the thing is, the whistle blew. It clearly blew before the puck went in. I think Igor still had control of it. And my understanding here is that the reason why they were able to overturn it is because, yes, the whistle blew, but because the puck went in and nobody like on either team made a play on it, and that would have happened anyway, whether the whistle blew or not. That's why they felt like they were able to overturn it. So, okay, fine. But if you're going to go with that, then why don't we go back to this Will Cooley goal? He scored. The more recent of the two disallowed Will Cooley goals. So the refs reviewed that for like 10 minutes, and then they said that the puck was frozen. So in that situation, when Cooley scored, there was no whistle. Nobody ever blew a whistle, and the puck went in pretty quickly. And they review it for an eternity, and then they come back and say that, oh yeah, the puck was frozen, no goal. So in that case, there was no whistle, but the puck was frozen. And then last night with the Devils scoring, with Hughes scoring this goal, there was a whistle, but the puck was not frozen. You guys still with me? Am I the only one losing my mind over this? Does anybody want to try to explain this from the NHL? It's just, it goes to Toronto and they just come up with something and they throw it back to you and away we go, and it more often than not is going against the Rangers. And that wasn't the only thing that happened as far as just, hard to make sense out of calls. There was an issue where McLeod hit Ryan Lindgren in this game. Lindgren was bleeding. I mean, Lindgren's always bleeding, but bottom line, Lindgren is behind the Ranger net. McLeod is approaching him, and it looked to me like McLeod, he kind of led with his shoulder into Lindgren's chin. They immediately call a penalty to the refs. Now, they don't know for sure if they're going to call it a minor or the 5-minute major. So all the refs come together. I'm sure, what did you see? Okay, this, that. They make the announcement that, okay, this is going to be a 5-minute major. That's the call on the ice. We will review it to see, if it should be reduced. And I'm thinking it's going to stand. I mean, it was a call on the ice, of course, and, shoulder to chin. It looked pretty intentional, at least as far as I was concerned. And they review it. And not only do they don't just knock it down to 2 minutes. They say no penalty at all whatsoever. I don't get it. And, Sam and Joe were trying to make some sense out of it, as we all were. And they threw out the idea that maybe they ruled, and we don't know because the refs don't explain it, but maybe the ruling here, when the refs are, addressing everybody, they don't really seem to explain their call. They just kind of mumble their way through it really quick. And so they initially said that, of course, this would be a 5-minute major. They reduce it to nothing at all. And again, we don't really get a very good explanation out of the referees after this happened here. And for some reason, there's no penalty here. And what's interesting, too, is that not too long after this, you had Vincent Trocheck. He put a hit on Holtz in the other side of the ice. It was on the Rangers side of the ice. And you had Mercer going after Trocheck. Now, you could argue that maybe there should have been a 2-minute penalty against Trocheck, but I joked after this. Like I said on a tweet, I said, I'm surprised, if this had gone to a review to Toronto, those people in charge there would have kicked Vincent Trocheck out of the league for this, the way that it's been going against the Rangers recently, and just the way that there's no consistency whatsoever, not just the Rangers, across the board in the NHL when it comes to these reviews. And of course, getting back to the point I was making earlier, Sam and Joe were trying to figure it out, and the one thing that they threw out there with the McLeod hit on Lindgren that maybe is a ruling that the refs made is that McLeod, initially the shoulder went into the chest and then it rode up and caught Lindgren in the chin. And if that does happen, that is technically regarded as a clean hit. So maybe that's the explanation. Even if that is the explanation, I just don't think that's what happened because I have two eyeballs that I think usually work pretty good. So I don't know, man. It's the NHL needs to figure this out because they've really lost the plot when it comes to these reviews. Nobody knows what a goal is. Nobody knows what a kick is. Nobody knows what conclusive evidence is. And sooner or later, this is going to cost a team big time in like a Game 6 or a Game 7 in the playoffs. I made that point in the past. So I've said my piece there. Toronto needs to get it together and then stop overthinking these calls and, just kind of lording over all these games. Anyway, let's keep it going here. We also have to talk about Artemi Panarin because, and by the way, a lot happened in this game, and we're taking this long to talk about Panarin because Panarin, another big game for him, obviously. I mean, what else is new? He scored the game-tying goal after the Devils had taken the lead. It was 3-2 at the time, and Panarin ends up scoring there, tie the game at 3, and set the stage for Vesey's heroics a little bit later. But Panarin now with a 15-game point streak to start the season. He's now alone in first all-time point streaks to start a season. He has passed Rod Gilbert, and this is the longest point streak for a player on the New York Rangers since Wayne Gretzky in 1996, 1997. So anytime you're mentioned in the same breath as the great one, you're obviously doing something right. And obviously, again, just a torrid start to the season for Panarin. And again, this goes back to what I was talking about earlier about how the Rangers, they'll downplay the whole payback, the whole revenge aspect of this win for sure. But Panarin, for somebody that was really struggling in the playoffs last year, was basically just stifled by this Devils team, just really could not get anything going in that playoff round. You got to think that this feels good for him to go in there and basically be the best player on the ice, which I would argue he probably was. Nothing against Vesey, nothing against Igor, or, even Jack Hughes, throw him in there too. He had a 2-point game for the Devils, and he was making his big return. But for me, best player on the ice, Artemi Panarin, hands down, and came up with the game-tying goal there. A couple of assists as well. Just great stuff all around there. I also want to give some props to Blake Wheeler. As I tweeted out toward the end of this game, Wheeler ended up with the empty netter there, and he now has 4 points in his last 5 games. And, again, this was an empty netter, but it certainly counts. And I said, baby steps. He's getting there. Slowly but surely, Blake Wheeler is becoming a little bit more of a factor for the Rangers. You see him doing things. He had a couple of steals in this game. One in the Devil's zone, which kept a Ranger offensive possession alive. He is getting to play with Mika and Kreider. Hopefully that line can really get it going sooner rather than later. But, early in the season, Wheeler it felt like he was really struggling to keep up with the pace of play, and he never had the puck. At least now he's got the puck a little bit. He's getting decent zone entries. He's jumped into the rush a couple of times, making some good passes, and again, being rewarded in the point department. And I got to give a shout out to Johnny Moore on Twitter, because this is what he tweeted out, in response to what I tweeted out about Blake Wheeler hitting the empty netter. So Johnny had to say, like the old cliche, they all count the same. We've all seen so many instances where an empty net is missed, and then the opposing team scores. That's a clutch play by Wheeler to hit the cage from that distance. And I just thought that was an excellent point, because, yes, there was a lot of time left in this game when Wheeler did this. There was 1:33 to go, and Blake Wheeler's from far away here. And just the fact that he's on the ice in this situation shows you that Laviolette is starting to trust him a little bit. We saw Wheeler's on-ice time be severely reduced early in the season. He's starting to get it back a little bit, and here he is on the ice with the Rangers up by a goal with about 1:30 to go. And to Johnny's point here, he hit this net from a long, long way away, and it basically wrapped up the game. Obviously, I think a lot of us were probably breathing a lot easier once the Rangers went up 5-3 on this empty net goal, as opposed to being up 4-3 for the final 1:30 there. And it looked like a good shot to me. When Wheeler cleared the puck here, you never know for sure. It's hard to tell, and sometimes maybe it's just wishful thinking. But to me, when I saw that puck, just sliding up the ice, it looked like that was going right for the empty net, and indeed it does. And that gave the Rangers increase their lead to 5-3. Big play by Blake Wheeler there, and it's nice to see him starting to contribute a little bit more as well. And then one more shout out here, Jacob Trouba, the captain of the Rangers, and playing like one last night. A lot of big hits. He's only credited with 4 hits, which is a lot, but with Jacob Trouba, you almost expect more than that. Every one of his hits, though, I felt was clean. I didn't see anybody calling him out for anything. Even Devils fans, I didn't see too much of that on social media. Obviously, he had that big hit on Nosek when Nosek was going toward the net, and Trouba just annihilated him. I thought it was a clean hit. Nosek went down, had to be helped off the ice, and obviously all our best to him. We don't want to see anybody get injured, and I don't know if it was to the header, he hit his head on the ice or anything along those lines, but he was obviously shaken up, and we don't want to see anybody get injured. That is for sure. But Jacob Trouba, look, he knows what's going on here. He knows this is a big-time rivalry game. And again, these guys downplay the history and the playoffs last year, but Jacob Trouba, again, I'm sure he's aware of that just like everybody else is, and obviously playing a very physical game. There was one shift, I forget who it was for the Devils, but he got the same guy twice in the same shift, knocked him to the ice both times, and again, with very, very clean hits. But I figure we could pretty much call it there. The only thing I want to do, so obviously, look, again, I got that Jimmy Vesey pick right. You throw enough things at the wall, sooner or later, a couple of things stick. Let's go ahead and throw out another dark horse candidate, somebody that I think is going to score a goal against the Dallas Stars, and that will be Zach Jones. We're going to go with Zach Jones to score what I believe would be his first goal of the season. Couple of reasons. Zach Jones, first of all, let's give props to him and Braden Schneider, because this is a big time, heavyweight matchup in this game last night. The two of them have come under fire from Ranger fans at times. I think they're both playing better and more confidently in recent games, and they held up big time against a really powerful, really, offensively potent New Jersey Devils team. And to just kind of run through their stats real quick, 1402 for Jones, 1539 for Schneider. The other defensemen all got more time, but they still held their own when they were out there. They both had an assist. Schneider was a +2. Jones was a +1. So good stuff from them all around. And again, I think they really held up against a tough opponent and have played a lot better recently. So that's obviously awesome to see. But as far as why Jones is going to score, for starters, again, just kind of feel like he's due. Another thing, too, why I'm going to throw this out there is that we didn't really see this against the Devils, but there's been a decent amount of games lately where Zach Jones has the puck and everybody's waiting for him to pass, and he'll start kind of creeping up a little bit toward the net. And the next thing you know, he's making a beeline for the net and he's taking a shot from the doorstep. He's gotten close to scoring in that situation on a couple of different times. So maybe he does that against the Stars. Maybe he drives to the net and puts one into the net that way. We'll see what happens. Again, don't go betting your life savings on it. But if you want to have some fun, Zach Jones, he's my pick for the next one, the next dark horse to score a goal for the Rangers. I figure we could pretty much call it there for today. Once again, if you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that is @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to the Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.